Hello viewers, this is Peter Ikaja taking you through a new topic, and that is quadratic equations. Please remember to subscribe to our eMath learning platform for continuous updates of our content whenever I upload. And remember, subscribing is free of charge. Do not get worried of the charges. I am going to be taking you through quadratic equations, but it is also important that you note that we still have our information, the contact information. I have two contacts here, and the second one being on WhatsApp, and that is my photo. Just still a young man who graduated from Bara University of Science and Technology. So quadratic equations is the topic of the day. We shall begin by defining what a quadratic equation is. Definition: a quadratic equation is one in which the highest degree of x or any other letter used is 2. When we say the highest degree, in this case we mean the highest power. So it means if you were to write a quadratic equation in terms of x, then a quadratic equation specifically will always have the highest power or the highest degree as 2. Giving the general form of a quadratic equation, it is always given in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, and c are constants. Let's look at formation of quadratic equations. How can we form quadratic equations? We shall look at two methods as we are going to discuss below. Number one, for example, form a quadratic equation in x whose roots are -2 and 3. You can look at a solution for this. Now, method 1, we're going to begin with method 1. We shall let x to be -2 and x to be 3 because they said we form a quadratic in terms of x. Remember, -2 and 3 are the roots given already in the question. The next step, for this case, when you bring the negative to this side, it will give us x plus 2 equals to 0. And for this case, should you bring the 3 this side, the left hand side, it will give us x minus 3 equals to 0. Now the next step will be obtained by multiplying these two equations. So in other words, you multiply x plus 2 by x minus 3, both in brackets, and multiply the 0 times the 0 on the right hand side. So this will give you x plus 2 into x minus 3, automatically giving you 0. What is the next step there? The next step is now expansion. We are testing for the concept of expansion. How do we expand? Get x, let it open the whole of this bracket, take this sign, which is a positive 2, then let 2 also open the same bracket. That is why we have x into x minus 3 plus 2 into x minus 3. Open your brackets. X times x will give us x squared, and x times -3 will give us -3x. 2 times x will give us 2x, and 2 times -3 will give us -6. And we still have a 0 on our right hand side. So finally, you simplify this. -3 plus 2x will give you -x. So your quadratic becomes x squared minus x minus 6 equals to 0. And this is the required result from the question. Let's look at method 2. It could be simpler for you as a student. We can also use the formula given by this. X squared minus, into brackets, sum of roots into x plus the product of roots. This seems a little bit simpler because it is a matter of you getting the sum of the roots and the product of the roots, then substitute automatically in this formula, and you surely come up with the same answer. Let's do the same number. We are given x as -2, x as 3. So you want to add -2 and 3, it will give us 1. Get the product. The product of roots will be -2 times 3, which will be -6. Then the next step will just be a matter of substituting for the sum here and substituting for the product here. And that will surely give you something related to x squared minus x plus 6, minus 6 equals to 0 as you see it in this next step. And that becomes the same result as we had obtained earlier on in method 1. So it is your choice. You have the liberty to choose one of the methods that is easier for you for any exam that you will sit for. Let's look at number 2. They're saying form a quadratic equation in x whose roots are 3 and 4. The same approach. Method 1, we shall again let x be 3 and also x be 4. Then move the 3 to the left hand side and move the 4 to the left hand side. Should you do so, we still obtain our expressions as this. Then you multiply the two expressions, it will give you the next step as this. Then we now expand these two brackets. X will multiply the whole of this bracket, and negative 3 will also multiply the same bracket. That is what we have just here. Then finally we shall have x times x giving us x squared, x times negative 4 giving us negative 4x, negative 3 times x giving us negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 4 giving us positive 12. And final on the right hand side we shall maintain our 0. But when you add negative 4x together with negative 3x, you will get negative 7x, and that is finally our quadratic equation. So method 2 is still going to be the same approach like we said. You can use the formula and just get the sum. Add 3 plus 4, get 7. Get the product. 3 times 4 gives you 12. Then after that, simply substitute in the formula, substitute for the sum and substitute for the product of the roots. It will give you this answer, which is still the same as the answer before in method 1. Question 3. I am glad here we now have at least one of the roots being a fraction. The solution is still the same, the approaches are the same. I'm going to choose to use method 1 because I feel it is easier for me, but for you, a learner, if method 2 is easier, please feel free to use it. Now, this expression here has to be handled with care. It is a fraction, so to make it linear first, multiply through by 4, or you cross multiply. And in this case, we shall just move the negative to the side, and finally we shall end up having 4y minus 1 after moving the 1 also to the left hand side, and y plus 2 is equals to 0. Should you get these two equations and multiply them together, you come up with this step here. Then the next step is basically expansion. So we shall have 4y into the whole of this bracket, negative 1 into the whole of this bracket, and the right hand side will have a 0. Should you expand carefully, shall have 4y times y giving us 4y squared, 4y times 2 giving us 8y, and negative 1 times y giving us negative y, and finally negative 1 times 2 giving us negative 2 is equals to 0. Then we simply add we get 8y minus y, and that will give us 7y as you see it here. So our quadratic equation will be 4y squared plus 7y minus 2 equals to 0. Now, learners are very free to try the same question using method 2 and check out whether you still get the same answer with the one I've gotten. Now, these are your trial questions. You're going to try them and find out whether you can come up with the most appropriate quadratic equations for each case. Thank you very much for listening, and please, may God bless you mathematically. Remember to subscribe to keep receiving the updates whenever I upload new content on this. I remain Peter Ekaja, a teacher of St. Joseph's Vocational School in Mbarara and in Uganda. Bye bye.